So recently, I was watching CNBC's YouTube page, and it was a video that was one of the compilations of multiple videos that they've had. And the premise was supposed to be about what are the tech workers doing now that they've been laid off. And they basically set it up, in my opinion, to give an answer for what the tech workers are actually doing, what their life looks like, what's actually going on with all of these thousands and thousands of people who have lost their job over the past year or two due to unforeseen, on their part, layoffs. And unfortunately, their resolution wasn't about American workers at all. Their resolution was about different H-1B visa holders. And if you don't believe me, go watch it. It's literally what it was. So their answer was, well, if you hold an H-1B visa, and you're thinking about going to America, or you're currently in America, just transfer over to Canada. Canada has wide open borders. They're not going to ask you as many questions, and you can go get a good job there. Seriously, that was their solution. And really, there was no resolution. There was no follow-up. They went from talking for about 35 minutes about all the layoffs that American workers are experiencing, and then just transferring to wrap-ups and final thoughts from the H-1B visa holders. So today, I don't have good news for you either, but I at least want to talk about the reality of what's happening to those being laid off. And spoiler, no, they're not going to other organizations and making money hand over fist. They're not going to other industries and flourishing. No, they're still very much struggling and really coping and just trying to find any hope possible on what to do next to their life. So that's what I want to talk about with you today. Let's dive in. Our first article is from Inc.com, and the headline is, "Laid off tech workers aren't taking unemployment well. Inside the lengths they will go to get rehired." And their little preview is that they're tapping recruitment firms to optimize their resumes, circumvent corporate AI hiring filters, and leveling up their job interview skills. And as always, the articles that I reference are listed down in the description below. I'm not going to go over the whole thing, just the highlights and how it pertains to our conversation we're having today, but you can read the whole thing for yourself if you choose to. The article goes on to say that gone are the days when all it took to get a job in tech was a computer science degree. I've worked in tech for over 10 years. It didn't even take that. All you had to really do was have any degree. I have a finance and real estate degree. My bosses had things like urban planning, other science degrees. You really just need to prove that you're able to graduate college with a degree, in my experience at least. According to Layoffs.fyi, over 130,000 tech workers have lost their jobs in 2024 at bellwether companies like Cisco and Intel. That's on top of the 263,000 that were laid off in 2023. It's only natural then that the competition for available jobs is fierce. Making matters more difficult, the hiring process is taking longer, and it's becoming more complex with the use of AI screeners and difficult technical interviews that test an applicant's problem-solving and coding skills. And as far as that goes, I'd have no problem with technical skills. I'm not a programmer, never claimed to be, but I've had technical skills when it comes to the software expected to be used by me. So I've been able to take technical assessments of my Excel abilities with VLOOKUPs and pivot tables and stuff like that. I've taken assessments of Access when that was a big thing to be used. So I have no problem with technical assessments. The problem is not the technical assessments these days. The problem is the childish games they have you playing. Memory match card game and which kind of puzzles fit together and this stuff that is on like middle school and high school exams. Like, what does that have to do with my ability to lead a project team? I mean, even if it was knowing the definitions, if it was testing you on the software, that's okay. But these are just childish, kiddie, dumb games that have nothing to do with your actual performance that they're making you take. And they're also eliminating the human elements. I mean, I can't tell you how many assessments I've taken where it's just a pre-recorded person saying, hey, here's the assessment you're going to take. Or even if they are asking you real questions, it's still just a person going and reading a script, and then you have to give your own answer basically to yourself. You have to pre-record your answer. You may have 2 or 3 different attempts, but you don't have the luxury of going back and forth, reading someone's body language, being able to further explain something, ask any clarifying questions. It's just you and a computer. That's the real problem, in my opinion. The article goes on to say that while the dearth of openings at bigger companies might make your job of finding highly skilled workers easier, plenty of workers remain committed to big tech. The lengths they will go to get a job are telling, and recruiting firms are seeing it firsthand. And to that, I would say, the more I'm doing these videos, the more I'm seeing how good I did have it in tech, because people are saying to take like, $16, $17 an hour, or that's what they're making, or just do something manual where, you got to use your hands and get dirty and work 70, 80 hours a week and hurt your back and all this kind of stuff. And honestly, I didn't have to do any of that to make a lot more money. So I guess I understand where the haters are coming from. The first section of this article is on resume optimization. And it says Kevin Wu, co-founder of Pathrise, says his business model is based on guiding job seekers through the application process via networking. Optimizing their resume and interview prep, they pay nothing until they're hired, and then they shout 7 to 14% of the first year of their income. Entry-level hires earn, on average, $80,000 in income, and senior-level hires average nearly $200,000. So is that something that you guys would do? It's pretty dang hard to get a job out here. Would it be worth it to basically pay this, headhunter, right? 7 to 14% of your first year's pay? And what happens if you lose that job in the first year? Do you still owe them 7 to 14% of what you would have been paid? I wonder how that fee works, but yeah. Would you do something like that if they can guarantee and you don't basically pay them until you win, similar to like an ambulance chaser? I think that's an interesting setup. The article goes on to say that he says the company has signed $30 million in contracts in the past year, and it currently works with about 1,000 people. It's not realized revenue, which depends on people actually landing a job, but he says Pathrise is meticulous about whom it serves on the basis of who's most likely to get a job. He can't reliably put a number on it, but he says a significant portion of his clients are people who've recently been laid off. The next section is mock interviews. Another way to go about getting hired: pay companies to conduct mock interviews. Lots of people come to Hello Interview on the tails of layoffs as well, says co-founder Evan King. The year-old company works by providing mock interviews for about $160 to $350 per session, depending on the expertise of the coach. King gets the sentiment that people who have been out of a job for a long time are frustrated and beaten down by the process, and come to his company because they're willing to try something new. And is this something you would trust from a year-old company? I got to imagine he's got a good-looking resume, he's got the experience, but yeah, would you pay a company that's only been around a year $160 to $350 to do mock interviews? And I think that's assuming that a lot of people are even getting interviews, or enough interviews. So at least with the first one, they're helping you with your resume and they're not taking their cut until you land a job. With this one, you're paying for a mock interview, similar to like just paying for a resume writer with no guarantee, and you could be stuck less $350 in this critical time with really nothing to show for it. So I don't know about that one. The article goes on to say that interviewing.io offers a similar service starting at $225. The company's founder, Aline Lerner, says that about 8,000 people sign up every month, and it has served 300,000 clients for the last 9 years it's been in business. The resource has been used by a third of all Bay Area engineers, she says. She goes a step further by arranging interviews with big tech companies for the top 5% of performers in the mock interviews. Like I said, I think a key is to be able to get interviews in the first place. So if there's a company that's offering mock interview services and then they also can set up actual interviews for you, then I think that's good. And also, it doesn't seem like these companies are taking on every single person and just doing a cash grab and taking their money. So the one service is basically paying to revive your resume and only going to charge you once you get a job. And then this is, we're going to do a mock interview, but we're also going to land you an interview as well. So that's pretty good. And Inc. says the third method that people are using once they get laid off is spray and pray. Apple Pass offers a scattershot approach for job seekers. According to co-founder David Hopper, Apple Pass uses AI to send 100 applicants per week. That service starts at $99 per month. While some big companies are using their own automation services to sift through applications, Hopper says on his end, the team's working on making its AI good enough to still get by their firewalls. The way workers are thinking about it, if a company doesn't want to spend time going through their written application, why should they put in the time? For many people, it's the first time they're dealing with a downturn and it's scary. Interviewing.io's learner says, you're used to 10 recruiters a day hitting you up on LinkedIn, begging you to talk to them. Now you're trying to find a way into a company. It's not how these people are used to thinking. Good thing they have help. So that one can get quite pricey if you're in the market for a long time. I mean, $99 per month, right? I mean, that's over a 6 month period is going to be way more expensive than these other ones. And it's only offering 100 applications per week, which, I mean, if you don't have a job and you're treating your application process like a full-time job, I don't think that's that many. I could get to, on a slow day, 50 applications in one day, and I got up to 2,100 applications before I really stopped counting. So I don't know if that would be a service that I would use, but let me know if you would. So those are the ways from Inc. that people are trying to improve their job application process, from getting better at interviews to getting better at resume writing, and then just an AI service that allows people to apply to a lot more jobs than I guess they would be able to if they were on their own doing it manually by themselves. Our second article is from NBC News. This article is headlined, "Laid Off Tech Workers Turn to LinkedIn, Therapy, and One Another to Bounce Back." And it says that tens of thousands are adapting to losing what some saw as the most stable career you could ever have. A support group for ex-Googlers told members, this was not your fault. So it says that more than a year out from the most brutal round of tech layoffs since the dot-com bubble burst, workers are reckoning with the loss of what some saw as airtight job security in an industry that's still downsizing. Now, I'm not one who thinks that you should feel a sense of comfort or job security in any role. But yeah, I mean, things were rocking and rolling. You at least thought you could land another job, even if it wasn't a job you were happy with. So to go from being able to get any kind of job you wanted to struggling to find a job at all is definitely not ideal, to say the least. And a lot of people also say that, well, they did overhiring during the pandemic and now they're correcting that. But the reality is, like I said, I worked in tech for over 10 years and I had many colleagues that did the same. And it wasn't a matter of everyone just getting into tech in 2020, 2021. I mean, we had jobs for 10, 15 years before that. So it's not a correction from the overhiring of the pandemic era. It's there's less people in tech than before the pandemic. So, I mean, you could call that an overcorrection or whatever, but I don't think from my reality that it's just because of the pandemic, because you would think that people who had jobs before the pandemic would have jobs now, and all of us don't. So it's not just a pandemic correction, it's something far, far worse. And the article goes on to say that the reality has been sinking in among workers in a field unaccustomed to extended periods of deep, widespread cuts. Many of those who lost their jobs over the past year or so have had mixed experiences bouncing back. Some have returned to companies that laid them off, and also says that some are starting their own ventures. And for me, it's like, yeah, people say, oh, start your own business. Yeah, I mean, with what money? Is everyone supposed to just go and take out a loan and then be thousands and thousands more in debt if that company doesn't work out? I mean, I don't know the exact statistics, but I know that most small businesses fail in the first 3 years. So I don't think you can go from saying that, oh, you just work for somebody else making good money, now just start your own business. I mean, that's a lot easier said than done. I don't know if that's good advice, because not everyone's set up to be an entrepreneur. And I think that's okay. There should be other jobs that Americans can go out there and get. And then it says some have left the industry, But from what we've seen, it's not like people are, like I said, are going into finance or education. They've left the industry. They're doing gig work like DoorDash and Uber, right? They're taking people from point A to point B. They're picking up groceries or picking up prescriptions. I mean, they're not going to more full-time jobs that are even equal or close to the pay they were getting before. And then they give another example of someone who took an entrepreneur route. And it says others who've taken entrepreneur routes are trying something completely different. So yeah, your answer is just going to be, well, start your own business. I mean, what the heck, man? Can't you just get a job somewhere else? So unfortunately, this was another misleading article, right? Because laid off tech workers turned to LinkedIn, therapy, and one another to bounce back. I mean, is this even the same dang article? Because all you did is talk about how you should be an entrepreneur and use your, large severance balance to go and start a new company. I think the reality is, yeah, a lot of people are turning to therapy because they need to have someone to talk to, because what the heck are you supposed to do? I mean, if you're applying to thousands of jobs and you're out of work for a year when you've only maybe been out of work for a month or two, I mean, talk about the effect on your mental health. I mean, talk about like being afraid and nervous, like what the heck are you supposed to do? Because it's also at a time where fast food is very expensive, groceries are expensive, rent is expensive, your car is expensive. So without a good paying job, I mean, what are you supposed to do? If you're just making federal minimum wage, you can't pay your bills. You really just can't. I don't know how people are doing it at all. And then, yeah, you could turn to LinkedIn, and all LinkedIn, though, is filled with scams. Even if you change your profile to open to work, you're getting hit up left and right by these fake people just trying to steal your information and then turning to one another, which is really all you can do. And that's what I like to do here on the channel. It's one of my goals, to create a network, a community of people who've just been struggling with this corporate America lifestyle and are just now maybe never really liked your jobs, but at least it was good to have a job than not having anything. And I guess some people, some haters could be like, well, you get what you prayed for. Like, you get what you wanted. You don't have to work at corporate America anymore. Now you're on the path to homelessness. It's good to have a community to talk to. I try to answer all the comments so we can talk about these things that are going on in corporate America, from layoffs to wacky hiring practices. So let me know what you think. Are you someone who's unfortunately been affected by these tech layoffs in the past year or two? And if you are, like, what are you doing to deal with this situation? Are you going to therapy? Nothing wrong with that. Are you just leaning on your friends and family? Did you have enough money saved up so that you could start your own startup? I'd really love to hear more down in the comments below. So please let me know what you're doing and how you're dealing with life after layoffs. Talk to you later.